The time is now 1 o'clock. We'll let some people file in, but we're ready to get started. Next on. The time is now 1 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start today's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everyone to our Tuesday, February 21st Commissioner meeting. The first item on our agenda is September McConnell from the Community Foundation.
I didn't know I was going to have this big crowd. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I know Teresa and Chad are a little bit familiar with some of the work we've been doing. Rob, you're fairly new to it. The Community Foundation exists in Whitley County for 3 reasons. One, we help people who have philanthropic or charitable intent make the most of their money. The second job that we do is to try and figure out where need exists in the community and filter money that people have given us into where those needs are. Since we've started in 1991, we've given about $32 million back into Whitley County, which is just awesome. We love that. The third thing, though, a lot of people don't know is our third role is to be a catalyst and convener. What does that mean? It's our charge to kind of go out in the community and figure out what are the pressing needs, what are the things that we need to be looking at. In 2018, we did a series of community focus groups. We had some studies that came back. We did some interviews in the community, and there were some really pressing, disturbing issues that we're facing in Whitley County. First and foremost, the jail was overcrowded. We all knew that was a situation, but there was a 77% recidivism rate. That means people were getting out of jail and turning around and coming right back in. It was like a revolving door. Very little being done in terms of mental health counseling for people who were in jail at the time. So they're coming into jail, they're getting out, and they're going right back into the same environment, the same behavior that put them back there in the first place. The second thing we heard a lot about was mental health. There was a screaming issue of our nonprofit partners that deal with kids were telling us that they were seeing kids who were undergoing levels of stress that they had never seen before and that they were not prepared to deal with themselves. On top of that, we had our manufacturing community saying, we've got a talent gap. We've got jobs here and we're not filling them, and we're not going to have a bright future unless we find the right people in place to fill these jobs. The other piece of that was there was no vocational training center at all in Whitley County at that point in time. If you wanted to learn any kind of building trades or automotive, you had to leave the county to do it. So we put together a collaborative partnership called Next Level Whitley County. And some of you might have seen it. There's a big umbrella, and it shows the different partners that we work with. Next Level Whitley County is led by the Community Foundation, but our partners are many. We have been working with the Prosecutor's Office, Community Corrections, Mission 25, the Health Department, school systems, private foundations, community courts, the Commissioners Council, Parkview Behavioral Health, YMCA, Bowen Center, private businesses. When we all got together and we looked at those problems, we thought we needed to figure out a solution. And what was really kind of remarkable about it was that it was kind of like a puzzle. One piece started to fit into the next. One of the first things that we dealt with was that in South Whitley, in Largo area, the middle school had closed. A lot of contention in the community about why that building was sitting empty. And so we went to the then superintendent and said, what if we turn this into a vocational training center? And he was all for it. And then there was a question of money. So we had a private foundation that we were partnering with, and they said, let's go for this. So they put a lot of money into it, and the vocational training center at Whitco was born. We love it. 400 kids a day going through there. But what's really cool is at night, there is a training program for guys that are in community corrections to go over there, and they're getting certifications for machinists. So they're getting out with a better chance at a better future for their families. We started to think, gosh, if we could put a stick in the spoke and change what's happening here, maybe there's just one family that comes out of this a little bit better. Maybe there's one kid that doesn't need the mental health counseling. Maybe there's a father who can provide better for the family, keeps the family together. So we've been very proud of the work we've been doing. We We were so proud of it that we went to Lilly Endowment, which is a private foundation in Indianapolis, and we competed against the rest of the state and was awarded one of 11 grants from the rest of the state for $2.6 million to buoy up some of the work that we have been doing. I say we're doing the work. I will tell you that everybody has been active in it, from the sheriff's department. We've done tours of different places and different programs that can go on. Mission 25 by and far is doing the heavy lifting. One of the first projects that we were really proud to complete was to put the Miami Village Community Center in place. So we went out to Miami Village and said, how can we start to reach the kids out here? And I say we're Sean Ellis and her team at Mission 25 have just done miraculous things out there. And we know it's starting to take some traction and good things are starting to spin out of it. I'm going to get to the long and short of this and tell you that on the 30th of January, we sat through a webinar that talked to us about state funding that was available through opioid settlement money. And so what that means is that the county and the city are all going to be getting a portion of opioid settlement money. Part of it is unrestricted. You can spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. The other part has to be used for abatement, which means it has to go into addressing drug problems in the community. Sean said, we got to get in on this. How do we do this? What was really crazy about it is the grant that I told you about for Lilly Endowment that was $2.6 million, we spent almost a year working on that application. This application was competitive. There's $25 million. We had 28 days to get done, which was fast. But we already had a collaboration in place, and that was half the battle. So we also have matching funds available. The Community Foundation is still sitting on about $1.4 million available that we can go and apply as a matching grant to the state. The reason I'm here today is to ask the commissioners to please allow us to, what they're telling us is that there has to be a facet of government that signs off on funding this. So we need to get a contribution into Next Level Whitley County that will allow us to qualify for the state grant in just a few days. Community Foundation paid for a grant writer, $10,000. It was a big chunk, but we believed in it and took a jump. We have a grant writer from, we looked for Lori Shipman. She couldn't get close to Lori Shipman, but we found somebody in Wabash who's pulling it together for us, and we are poised to have that thing submitted. I don't think there's going to be very many other communities that are going to be able to come in that kind of a timeline. We were really in crunch time. So today what I'm going to ask you is, underneath that umbrella, all those different partners, whether it's a JCAP program for the jails, whether it's health department, whether it's Sean, we just need a modest contribution of that opioid settlement money to be directed into Next Level Whitley County. You can earmark it for wherever you want it to go. In your packets that you'll see in front of you, there is a schedule of the money as it becomes available. You guys would have gotten, the county would have gotten the first distribution last December. And I know you've been plenty busy, not had time to look at that yet, but that's what's available in terms of unrestricted and what has to be earmarked for abatement. So any portion of that can come into Next Level Whitley County to keep continuing the work that we're doing, it can be a token amount right now. But I know you guys will go to work on trying to figure out what to do with the rest of that down the road, but we just need that little check.
Can we determine a year annually, or does this need to be?
One time. All it's telling us, yeah, I've got this like phone book full of rules and regulations for the grant. It just says that some unit of government has to make a grant into Next Level to allow us to apply for funding. So if we can get that from you guys, we'll be golden, right, Sean? Yeah. Do you have any questions?
So you mentioned any level of support. Did the grant writer give you any indication of what a good amount would be to make us more competitive?
No, they didn't. And they didn't. Who, me? Okay, good. Okay, she asked if there was an amount that makes it competitive. I think more so than an amount is just, I know JCAP is probably one of the top things that you're looking at. If you would give just a little bit right now to Mission 25, I'm going to really beg you guys down the road to think hard about them. They're doing really great services, and I think they're going to be in a position where they're going to have a capital campaign for a new facility. I don't want to blow any big announcements, but they think they have the capacity to triple what they're able to do now. It's gone a long way from just being a homeless shelter. They are now the only level 3 certified drug recovery, residential recovery agency in the county. So they're doing really important work. But today, for the sake of this, we just need a quick 5,000, 10,000, whatever you guys decide you want to put into it. Again, it's a token amount.
For anything under the umbrella, or
Yep.
is it specific?
Just give it to next level Whitley County, and that's all that they're requiring at this point.
Okay. I will make a motion that we give $20,000 to support programming for offenders with co-occurring substance abuse and mental health disorders.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
Thank you very much.
On to council.
Appreciate it. I just asked them to please award some funding that was already in place from the state of Indiana. The state of Indiana has opioid settlement money that is made available to counties and to the cities in Whitley County, all throughout the state of Indiana. It's money they've already been given. We needed to have a small portion of that earmarked so that we can move ahead to get a larger grant from the state to bring more money into Whitley County. And it's to help people who have addiction problems. That's the game plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The only thing I'd tell you is, you guys, we got a new building going up, and I was just gonna let everybody here know that it was built without using any donated dollars or taking away from our grant making. So come visit us when it's all up and finished. It's across from Parkview, so. Okay, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are the mics working now? Sounds like they're working. Can everyone hear us now? Barely. We'll move the mic closer. How's that? Okay, I think we're working with the mics now. So the next item on the agenda will be Leslie Blakley from the community, or from the Council on Aging.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to present our fourth quarterly claim for consideration and for signature. These are for everyone who's in the room that isn't familiar with this. Whitley County Transit is a program that's available to any resident here in Whitley County, and the Indiana Department of Transportation earmarks a certain amount of funding for us that is available to us each quarter of the year. This is for us to claim funding that is available to us that was earmarked for us for the final quarter of last year. And it is a voucher requesting $116,659 that is out of money that was made available to us from the state. That money comes through the commissioners. And so each quarter we present that voucher for consideration and for signature by the commissioners so that that money will be released from the state to our organization.
Commissioners? This is grant funds.
I'll make a motion to approve the voucher as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
Any update on the vehicles by chance?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm still awaiting some purchase agreements and the official documentation from the company that we purchased those vehicles from. But we have been assured that they should be released July or August is what it's looking like at this point.
Okay, so our county's gonna get two, because I know that we were, oh, that's good.
Yes, 2 is what we had ordered back in 21. And they're finally, yes, going to be able to deliver on that. We're also in the process of making those considerations for application for vehicles that would be applied for this year for delivery next year. So, but yeah, we can talk about that more.
Okay, wonderful, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Backing up on the agenda, Matt, I skipped right past you. Is there anything you have for us today?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Matt?
I have none.
Okay, next item on the agenda will be Nathan Bilger with a rezoning ordinance amendment.
Thank you. This is actually a text amendment. What it does is makes a typographic correction to the solar code that was adopted back in October. In that formula dealing with buffering, inadvertently 1 0 was left out, which greatly affects the formula. So what this proposes to do is add that zero back in, which is as discussed at the Plan Commission and during the public hearings at that time. This comes to you with a unanimous favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. And again, this ordinance doesn't do anything other than deal with that one missing zero. It doesn't have anything to do with any site-specific projects or anything.
By adding that zero, what does it do to buffering?
So as it is written right now, basically the formula just caps out. There's a maximum distance that the panels be set back, and everything maxes out at that maximum, instead of what was discussed at the public hearing, which was a sliding scale. When you have a house that is closer to the property line, panels are set back farther away, panels can be closer. That was what was discussed at the public hearing. Again, without the change, everything is just at its maximum.
Okay. Commissioners?
Yes. I have no questions.
No questions.
How would you like to move forward?
Do you want to table it until next month, or?
I've always struggled with sliding scale. It doesn't make sense to me. The formulas, I don't really get it. I think we owe it to our constituents to protect them as far as the distance the panels could be from their structure. I like setbacks from property lines. And so it would be nice to be able to study this formula a little more and see how it might impact residents' property.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table the amendment until our March meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to table. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And that motion passes unanimously.
And if you don't mind, while we're on the topic of solar, Leeward Energy, which is the company that has sent out, held the open house and sent out notices, they did officially file for the first step in approval process, which is rezoning for an overlay. The deadline was on Friday. They're on file for the March 15th Plan Commission meeting for public hearing for that first step as an overlay. If it gets once it gets a recommendation from the Plan Commission, it will come to you guys for your final consideration. And then if it gets approved by you, they still have further hoops to jump through development review and so on. So we're looking at several months if everything runs concurrently. So just wanted to give you an update on where that stands, if you have any feedback on that.
Well, while we're on that topic, I think this is why most of you are here today. So first of all, I want to be clear that I'm speaking for myself, Rob Shipman here. My fellow commissioners can and will speak for themselves. 3 weeks ago tonight, I received a text message asking simply, do you know about the solar farm? I replied that I did not, and the sender then sent me a map of the proposed project in the area surrounding the intersection of Maury and Kyler Roads. The next day, I started to get more messages and questions, and it's been nonstop since. I believe that I've replied to each of them because I think it's important for people to feel that and know that they are heard. I will admit that I didn't know much about the topic, so I sought to educate myself. I read articles, watched videos, asked lots of questions, and attended meetings. The number one thing I learned from my research is that there is a tremendous need in our community for all of us to continue to educate ourselves. It is my belief that everything seems to be happening too fast, which is concerning. There's much we don't know yet about this technology. For instance, we don't know what the long-term effects projects like this could have on our land, our community, or our environment. With this in mind, and also considering that Whitley County has always been an agricultural community, I feel that it's in the best interest of Whitley County and its citizens to pause and give ourselves the opportunity to dig deeper and really consider all that projects like this entail. With that said, I hereby move that we direct the Plan Commission to enact a moratorium for a period of up to 1 year while reserving the right to extend such moratorium should it be deemed necessary.
Yeah, I would just piggyback off of what Commissioner Shipman said. I think it's really telling to see you all here. In my time, this is definitely the most attended meeting that I've ever seen. I've gotten more emails and phone calls on this than I ever have before on any other issue. I hear you, and I agree that we should have a moratorium. And in speaking with Nathan, now you had indicated that a 1 year is what the state will allow, and then we can continue that.
Correct. The state allows for a moratorium on land uses of up to 1 year, and if at the 1 year mark you need to renew it, you go back through the same approval process at that time.
So with that, I will second Commissioner Shipman's motion to direct the Plan Commission to enact a moratorium.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just for one point of clarification, just so we don't get things kind of caught up in the fray, you're speaking specifically about commercial solar, not private solar. So
Yes.
not like building mounted. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay. Next item on the agenda is EMA, emergency management. Is Amy here?
No, she is on.
Okay, are you speaking to this?
No.
I can if need be. I actually drafted it for Amy. You guys.
Matt, do you want to pull the microphone? I'm sorry. I don't think anyone in the audience can hear you.
I'm not sure if I can. I'll just have to stand up. So I drafted that for Amy. We previously, you guys have adopted a similar policy. The policy allows for other subcommittees of county government to tag along to that. It basically allows for remote participation in a meeting as long as you can see the person and hear the person so that we know that they're actually there. We've used that with George as George has transitioned, and Amy thought that flexibility would allow her to have better attendance at the Emergency Management Authority, so she asked me to draft it. But to the extent you guys have questions, great, but it's exactly the same as yours. It's just tailored for emergency management.
Okay. So it makes sense to me. Is there any discussion on it? And just, I think it'll help her to be able to get a quorum.
And your resolution number would be 2023-08.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-08.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And that motion passes unanimously. Next up is Scott Wagner. No, we're not doing Scott Wagner today. You already have that.
Yeah, we already have it. Thank you.
Gotcha. So we will move on to a Cum Cap Development Rate discussion.
I know that we tabled this from last month, and for me, I'm not in favor of raising taxes. There's enough taxes, especially with inflation. I think that we should just keep it as it is, and not increase it.
I agree with Commissioner Basinger.
Same here. So I don't know that any action needs to be taken.
I'll make a motion that we keep the cum cap rate as is.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay. We have two facilities requests. Let's see where I put those. The first one's for the courthouse gazebo. This will be on the 12th of April from 9 to 9:30 a.m. And the request comes from the Whitley County Domestic Violence Task Force for a proclamation of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We'll vote on that, Rob, actually.
I have no issues with it. We do this every year, so I would make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And that motion passes unanimously. And the second facilities request comes from St. Paul of the Cross for Palm Sunday. And they're asking for use of the downtown gazebo from 10 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. on April 2nd.
I have no issues. I'll make a motion that we approve the request as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And that motion passes unanimously. Looks like maybe they had an old form, Rob, with George Trump's name on it. So if you just want to line that out and write yours in. Okay.
Under claims. So, again, like we talked about last month in the spirit of fostering, working together with council a little more closely maybe than is done in the past, we've kind of sought to involve members of council in the approval of claims and accounts payable. So Friday afternoon, I had the opportunity with Councilman Tom Warner to go upstairs and go through everything and investigate and look into it, and everything looked to be in order as far as claims and payroll. And so there were no issues that we found.
Okay.
So I will move to accept payroll and account. Can we do them on the same?
Okay, yeah. Separate
Okay,
motions.
I'll move to accept claims as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve claims and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
I'll also move to approve payroll as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve payroll. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your right. And that passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is our previous meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review last meeting's minutes?
I'd make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And we'll sign those after the meeting. And that is, we've worked our way through the agenda. Matt, do you have anything to add?
I do, and again, I'm not, maybe I'll come up here real quick. And Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I know you're all here and everybody applauded what happened, I want to make sure that there is not a miscommunication about what just happened so that everybody understands what, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I was not prepared for this to happen today, but what the commissioners have done is asked the plan commission to send back to them a moratorium. Okay, I just want to make sure you guys understand that there is not a moratorium. Okay, what they have directed is the plan commission to send them one. There will be a public hearing that will be advertised, and the plan commission will then decide what to do. If they agree with what you've asked them to do, it will come back here. I just want to make sure that that's clear to people. And so, okay, and just for clarification, I know there's been some miscommunication about what we're doing and not doing, and that's where we're at this point. The application that's already been filed potentially will still be at the Plan Commission meeting, March 15th. Plan Commission will or will not take action on that. Anyway, I just think that's important so that everybody.
Sure, thanks.
Did I get that right? Yeah, okay.
We'll open up to public comment. So if anyone has anything to add today, we'll just ask that you come forward to the podium, and we'll offer 3 minutes per person to speak if anyone would like to add anything to the meeting today.
the Whitley County Citizens Against Solar Farms would like to thank you.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
The Whitley County Citizens Against Solar Farms would like to thank you. There's a lot of people here today, like Teresa had already said, that it's not real common for the moratorium to give us an opportunity to get better educated on this whole project. We do have a lot of signatures. There's over 500 here that are against it. And we just want to thank you and for your time and your efforts.
Okay. If you want to give those to the auditor, that'd be great. Thanks, Jason. Anyone else?
I have a few words I'd say.
Hi, guys. I'm Ina Colbart with Ina's Playpen Child Care of Whitley County. I just wanted you guys to know that I do run a daycare next to this spot that they are planning to put this solar farm. I just want you guys and everyone else to be aware of, I have small children there. The company has talked to me about making sure there's proper background checks done on everyone that's going to be working over there next to my child care home. I just wanted to make sure the councilman knew that, that's something that's very extensive that we need to make sure this company does do to protect our children in Whitley County. So I am the largest in-home child care provider in Whitley County. I have 2 homes and we have a crisis of child care in our community. We all know that. So I'm just afraid this is going to be very, detrimental to my business, the families that I care for, incoming families that I'm going to be caring for. So I just want you guys to know that the solar farm being this close, because I'm also on that lovely equation you were talking about, where my house sits almost on my property line. So that equation really does offend me because they're literally going to start their panels right next to my daycare fence. We have no place to move our fence to get us away from them. So I just want you guys to be aware that, I do have small children out there. They may do background checks for 5 years. Who's going to say, someone hasn't had a background check longer than that? And what's going to say in 6 months, these people don't come back and go, oh, childcare provider, and start, scoping out around our house and stuff. So I just want you guys to be aware that, I do run a large daycare and my part is make sure the children of Whitley County are safe in the environment we're going to be putting them in.
Okay.
So, all right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Michael Love, Whitley County resident. I just, one of the things that you voted on, I believe was regarding satellite voting or such. Is it for you that you were voting for? Or your entire group?
So
this meeting?
there's an ordinance that already exists for commissioners to be able to attend meetings virtually. This is just an extension for emergency management to be able to hold their meetings virtually.
Is there a limit to the frequency that you're allowed to do meet from a satellite purpose?
There is.
So the only reason
I don't have it memorized, but I think it's like twice a year or something.
Okay.
The emergency management doesn't, I don't know, they don't meet very often. The ordinance that was passed today was for emergency management,
Sure.
not for.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that there was something limiting the number of times that you were able to be here and represent and vote and such, and for voters to be able to know that their representatives are here, because that doesn't always happen in some of the things that we have. So I just wanted to make sure that was the case and see if that expounded on yours as well. So thank you.
Yep. Anyone else?
Hi. Laura Maury Wall. A lot of us are still questioning exactly what Matt said. We thought when a moratorium went into place, that would give us a year. It kind of puts things on hold for that year. So we can research it, reanalyze it, see what's best for our community, go back to the ordinances of 2006, not the ones that were put in place. So if Matt could just explain that a little better, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Matt, before you do, my understanding is that we've called on the planning commission to enact a moratorium. So that's not something we can do here, but we can call on the planning commission to do so. So I'll let you take over.
What he said is correct. I mean, that has to come from them. They can just suggest this is what we would like to see. But that's why I explained it.
This process is, unless you go to plan commission meetings, it's a little different in how things come and stop and start. And so, the March 15th is the plan commission meeting. 7 o'clock. This room. In this room, yes.
Anyone else? I know there's someone in the back who stood up twice. Want to make sure she has an opportunity.
First of all, we can't hear you back there. I'm sorry, we cannot hear back there. You're the only one person I can hear talk is Mr. Shipman. You're the only one. So thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay. My question is, why and when were the two sites chosen for the solar panels? Do you know that or you don't know that?
No, this is driven by a private company.
Oh,
We have nothing in it.
okay, but who did they approach here in Columbus City to initiate this?
The landowner, don't they?
Yes, they would start with the landowner.
Oh, the landowner?
Mhm.
And then the landowner comes to the planning commission or you folks? I mean, why are we here today then? I'm confused.
So the company went to the landowner to see if they would be interested in going into contract with them to use their land for solar farming. Whatever that contract looks like, we don't know. Again, it's a private company with transaction.
Leeward, I think is maybe.
And then that starts the process. So here we are. And then, as you know, that we directed Plan Commission to enact a moratorium.
Okay, so this is the initial meeting then, after the owners approached, the company approached the owners. This is the first step in this process. It's not the first step.
I think the first step is the planning commission meeting on the 15th.
When is it?
On the 15th.
March 15th,
March 15th?
7 p.m. right here,
Right there. What time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Okay. I guess that's it. Thank you. By the way, we still can't hear you back there.
Okay, anyone else?
Can I just ask something?
Yep, you can just come forward, introduce yourself and.
Are you gonna? All right, you want my name? Leanne Facer. So I actually live on Chauncey Street. And I feel like I need to come forward and go to the meeting. Did any of you guys get to go to the meeting that was at the Van Buren?
I attended.
Okay, so these people are hit and run. They're a lobbying group. And I talked to a lot of them because I came late, so I know about their kids. They showed me things. They have an environmentalist. One of the guys had to be flown in from Philadelphia on a nighttime plane because there was so much going on in here and they were worried about losing it. And that night he was going to go out west. So I think what would really help, and I don't think that the farmers would like my advocacy, but the problem with these people is they are well-trained and they are not going to be here. They promise them if anything's going to happen and they'll come take it down and stuff like that. But there's a lot of, and if you look for like solar panel fields that got left abandoned, you'll find a lot of them. And I know you have to be even-handed with it, but you'll find that these companies are owned by a company, by a company, by a company. Then they go bankrupt. Maybe they said we get $500,000 a year in taxes, maybe we'll get like 2 or 4 million. But then I think that these homeowners need to know that, or landowners, that at some point, if these people leave, because they don't even, a lot of the contracts, they're leasing the land, they can quit leasing it whenever they want. And so those homeowners are going to have to continue with that tax on that property and they can be decimated. And I know the reasons for it and why they would want to do it, but these people that came to us are not the company. And they need to know that. And I don't know who the company is, but they're one of the best lobbyists I've ever talked to. So I don't know, you guys, if you talk to them or something like that, you might get a sense of it. But I know that they really to be great with these farmers. So I just wanted to kind of give you that intel, and it is advocating for the farmers in a way. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Thank you for entertaining us all here today. And I just want to deal with the process. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it so that I'll feel comfortable. When you say direct the planning commission, what does that mean? Does that mean that it could potentially, where does that go? It's just, I want to put a point on the process so I can understand it better.
So I think we'll defer to our planning and building director, Nathan Bilger.
And the only reason I asked that is a lot of people here were wondering, is that they thought the moratorium that was suggested today and unanimously approved meant that that was a moratorium. And then, is it Mr. Shipman, you then explained it, and then I heard the word direct, and then it made me feel confused, that's all. And it's just my ignorance, really. So if you could clarify and help me with my ignorance, I'd be grateful.
So to further clarify, land use moratoriums are a zoning action. Zoning actions can be started either by the Plan Commission or by the commissioners. If it's by the commissioners, it's referred to the Plan Commission for the public hearing. And that's what you've done, is said, we need something, we need a moratorium. You're referring it on to the Plan Commission then. So now it will be on the Plan Commission to hold a public hearing on that moratorium, do a recommendation, which then comes back to you. We have enough time. The moratorium will be on the agenda for the 15th as well. That said, because the project that I mentioned, the Leeward project, filed prior to the enactment of the moratorium, that project's still continuing forward under state law. They're given 2 years under the code under which they filed. So that will progress forward basically in parallel with the moratorium. So it kind of gives you a chance to explore everything that you're concerned with this project without the possibility, if the moratorium is enacted, without the possibility of another project coming in and losing focus, which I think is a pretty wise way of using the moratorium, so you can understand project by project that way. But that's how it works. Both things will be heard, are expected to be heard on March 15th. Again, March 15th, 7 o'clock, this room, and we'll get the public notices out in the newspaper as required.
Can you explain the process of approval for the applications that have been submitted?
So the process for that, it is a rezoning. The initial step is rezoning. Rezonings go through public hearing. It is not actually changing the zoning, it's actually just adding another layer of zoning to it. So the industrial area that's zoned industrial stays industrial, but it would allow for commercial solar, and the ag area stays agricultural. It just would add commercial solar as well. The Plan Commission holds a public hearing, makes a recommendation, either favorable or unfavorable to you as the commissioners, then sends it to you for final action. You have 90 days to act upon it after their action. And so you can either approve it or deny it at that point. A couple other things you could do with it, but those are the two main ones. So again, if you enact a moratorium, it could be prior to you actually getting the project case, if the project's continued for some reason, but state law does allow them grandfathering under the code under which they filed. So again, kind of running parallel paths.
So just to clarify for the public, it's going to go to the Planning Commission. They're going to give us a recommendation on the project that everyone is here for now, and we have the final say.
You have the final say.
Okay.
You
I
always
just
have
want
the final
everyone
say.
to know that. Okay. No, we're talking, the one that you guys are talking about here, with the moratorium, the, company asked, the one that, yes, the one they put their, application on Friday. And since the moratorium hasn't been enacted, you can't retroactively go back. So they have to, go through the process in which, on the day that they, well, at the end of the day, we have the final say. So, but it has to go to planning commission. That's just how it is. And then it comes to us. But at the end of the day, commissioners have the final say. So just to clarify.
Did you approve the zero? So what equation did they use for that?
So you tabled the equation for at least 2 weeks. The equation does not actually come into play until it gets to the next stage. If they get their rezoning approved, the equation comes into play when they actually site the panels, and that is engineering. So that's when that comes into play. They have to go through rezoning first, which ultimately is their choice in decision, final decision.
Are we allowed to speak on the 15th?
Yes, public hearings. Yes.
I guess our question is, are we still ahead to be able to stop them with the commissioners from coming into our, I think we're the one that we're here for. Are we still ahead of them to stop them from coming in?
Yes, at the end of the day, we have the final say. So what they're doing now is more procedural than anything, if that makes sense.
Can I turn the flags out that they put on our property?
I'll venture that you need to consult your own legal counsel on that.
I would say that they probably had locates, which, yeah.
So will we see them on our property? Can we call and get them off our property?
I would defer to your own legal counsel on that.
Hey, anything else I'd like to clarify? I mean, I know there's been a lot of information around it. Want to make sure I'm available for clarifications for everyone.
Could you clarify the difference between?
Come on up.
This again goes to ignorance on my part, and I apologize for that. But there's a lot of complexity here.
At least for me.
Can you give your name for the record?
Diana DuPont.
I knew that, but just so the public did.
I'm just curious if you're like me, what is the difference between a rezoning and a zoning overlay? And if this is an industrial project or a commercial project, how do you overlay something on an existing agricultural site? That's just like, I don't get that. I mean, why isn't it just rezoned as commercial or as industrial? And that's where I'm having my
Some of it
disconnect.
is already zoned industrial and
Oh, that makes sense. I can kind of get that part. It's the other part. Because I understand like 3/4 of this area is agricultural, prime, so it's prime agricultural land. So I'm just having a disconnect. Thank you, Sue.
So yeah, Matt's right. About a third of the overall property is already zoned industrial. Pretty much everything from Maury Road north to the railroad track is already zoned industrial, has been for many years. The parts that are south are zoned AG agricultural. Your question about overlay, the way that works is if it's zoned industrial things can go into that zoning. If it's zoned agricultural, that'll continue. The overlay basically adds another layer saying, you can also do, in addition to whatever is allowed underneath, you can add the commercial solar on top of that. You sometimes see this with other types of overlays, say around an airport, for example, that you might have a height restriction because of incoming airplanes. You don't change anything that you can do for the land uses underneath. It could be commercial or residential. You just restrict the height. So the same concept is here. You're just adding a layer to what's already there. You're not changing what's there, you're just adding to it. Does that help?
Well, the only thing that confuses me is they seem contradictory. That's where my little brain, I just can't get through on that point. So is an overlay a shortcut, or should it just be rezoned from day one, they go forward, or is the overlay a good thing? That's what I just don't get. To me, they seem contradictory.
So the question was, the overlay seems contradictory because it seems that parts of adding the solar seems contradictory to agriculture. I'm assuming that, yeah. And so in the zoning code, the solar code, section 5.23, overlays can be, the solar code overlay can be added to either agriculturally zoned land, AGP zoned land, which is agriculture production, IPM, which is light industrial, and it's industrial park manufacturing, and that's what you're looking at, or IN, intensive use, which is heavy manufacturing, heavy industrial. So those 4 districts are where an overlay for solar can be added. If the commissioners and plan commission want to change that, and you could probably, I kind of get the sense that you personally want to see that change, that would be a text amendment to change what districts that overlay could be applied to. But those 4 were what was written into the code. For example, no one felt comfortable saying that a commercial scale solar could go into a residentially zoned area. So residential districts, commercial districts were not included. Parks and Rec was also not included. That help? You're welcome. Any other clarification questions that I can help with while we're all here?
Jenny Rowland, what were you talking about? Friday something was, no, you can hear me.
Well, have you come forward and introduce yourself so that those who watch the meeting later will be able to hear you and know who's speaking.
I feel like she did. I guess I'm not all here. Jenny Rowland. Okay, you said for a minute there we had a year to regroup and get things going, but then he turned around and said, no, you've got, did he say next month? Where am I lost here?
The company,
We basically asked or directed the planning commission to enact the moratorium. We can't do that by state statute. They can. They report to us essentially. So we're directing them to do what we would like them to do.
Okay,
which is a
great.
moratorium.
And then something happened last Friday? No?
the
Yes?
company officially applied for the permit on Friday.
Okay, for what we're all here for today?
Correct.
Okay, and
Maui
and you guys
Island
do
area.
have the last say.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else? Commissioner Shipman, anything to add?
I've nothing.
I'm sorry, can you come forward and ask?
So the overlay, my name is Andrew Greer, live over on Page Road. So would the overlay be for the whole county or just the projected area that they want to come in right now? Because they're not gonna just hit those farms. They're gonna try and get our whole county to supply the coast because they can't do it on their own. We're middle America. We make everything work. Why do they, you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, it will be a county-wide moratorium that will be applicable to everywhere in the
Yeah, so,
county.
all right. So it's not just we're fighting that area, we're doing the whole town.
Maybe I misspoke.
No, you didn't misspeak, but I don't address this question either. So you got 2 parts here. The moratorium, as Mr. Banks just said, would apply to the entire county. However, the overlay is just those 12 properties that are in question. So what is being requested by the company is those 12 properties. The moratorium is countywide. That makes sense?
So they're on hold for a year, no matter where they are at in the county.
Right, any new projects, once the moratorium would be adopted,
Say
their decision,
exactly.
then anywhere in the county would be on.
All right.
The currently filed one
This,
is
yeah,
proceeding forward as they file.
I was just curious about that because, I mean, they don't get that, they're not gonna stop, but just that,
It's a good question.
it's big money, we're little people, it is what it is. Just hope we vote as the right people.
Okay. Looks like somebody else coming forward, so. Yep.
Here's all your overlay inspection, that's the law. What happens,
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Bruce Hazelwood, I've lived out on Washington Road since 1986. What happens when these
when these individual farms go south? What happens when there's so much cheaper solar energy somewhere else that these get decommissioned and taken offline? Who's left holding the bag?
That's one of the things that we need to educate ourselves on and why we are asking the Plan Commission to enact a moratorium.
Well,
That and a number of other questions.
basically, the last page of the law says it's buyer beware. Because Leeward goes back to Canada, that's where they're from, by the way. And they leave the farmer or all of us to pay to decommission the dang thing. So I urge you to plead that to the Planning Commission. We're not looking for more liabilities in this county. Fewer.
Just to clarify, did we not add into the zoning that they had to have a bond to decommission if something like that were to happen?
That's true.
Okay, so there would be a bond that we would pull on that would then pay for it.
Who holds that bond? Does the company or do the commissioners hold it?
The company. Is it the farm? Is it the landowner? Okay. Well, that's so the taxpayer then would not be on the hook for it. That's what that bond is for.
Yeah. So you might remember back when this was sent to you from the Planning Commission, the as certified version included decommissioning, including a bond, and the bond would be held by the county. The commissioners at the time said, no, that's too much liability for the county, and not trying to speak for you, but that's my understanding. And so you directed that to be somewhat rewritten, that there would still be a bond required, but that would be held by the property owner themselves against the company, against the operator. And if the county needed to be involved in pulling that bond, that would be a zoning enforcement action, which we already have in place in the code. So it kind of steps back the county's involvement a little bit, still has a bond, it's just not directly held by the county. And that's the version that got adopted in the final edition.
And that would be similar to like condemning a home and having that home demolished and
right. Yeah.
And then going back on the property owner.
Exactly.
Getting money back.
Yep.
What if the property owner just left it that way?
Then that's where the zoning enforcement action comes in play, because the decommissioning section of the solar code says you have to remove the panels to, I forget the depth, I think it's 3 feet, maybe it's 2 feet, and other steps in that. And so if that isn't done, then the zoning enforcement could be followed through with.
How far are they going down? They say how far they're going down? You said 2 feet is all they got to remove.
I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 feet. I think it's actually 3 feet. So I don't know. That's a question for them from a technical standpoint.
Can you repeat the question? What has to be down?
The question is, how deep would their posts be? I assume that's what you're talking about, the post be or anything else. Yep. So anything that they're putting in the ground, how deep that would be.
I just want to be totally clear. When we ask you to come forward and introduce yourself, I think there's a little bit of unease there. And it's mainly for, you can go home this afternoon and watch this meeting's being recorded. It'll be on YouTube. And that's the main reason, so that when you're watching it later, or someone who couldn't attend, they'll know who each person is and what we're talking about.
Okay, thanks, Rob. This is Dave Trimmer. My land is out by the Kaiser and Washington Road area. There's 2 other farmers out there that are talking about this, and my question is kind of to Nathan on procedure. Do those, and I'm not sure they're working with Leeward, I don't know which companies they're working with. So do they have the opportunity to file before the March meeting to get into this process?
Do they have the opportunity to file before the March meeting? I think the technical answer is yes, but I know not of the projects. I've heard that other farmers have been courted by developers but they haven't approached us at all to make themselves known. So I take that as an indication they're not very far along in their process to be able to file. If they come in with a surprise filing, then I have to say that could be a possibility. But I would say that I don't think it's a very likely scenario either.
My name is Doug Hostler. A question, would it be possible to have an emergency planning commission meeting to accept or deny this moratorium before the 15th to thwart these people that want to come in and make a filing early? Because this is moving pretty fast and we are very new at this. So.
I appreciate the thought, and we had the same thought. Statutorily, the state law requires a 10-day minimum public notice published in the newspaper. Excuse me. In order to hit that 10-day notice, we have to get the newspaper notice, the notice to the newspaper by this Friday in order to hit the March 15th deadline. So essentially March 15th, we could move it up by a day or two, I think. But otherwise, in order to hit the public notice requirement, we're pretty much set. So that's as quick as we can move. But we definitely ran those numbers.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I don't know if this is a question for you, but back in October, and I don't know if it was the commissioners or the city council, they accepted and provided a map where they were making an EJ land use, which I think is extraterritorial jurisdiction. So they were expanding their jurisdiction out into what appears to be like, you know, north of Walmart and where these areas are. And so I kind of Googled that and found out what that determination is. The extraterritorial jurisdiction is for the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens. Does that EDJ that it is right now, does that come into play with any of this? Or is that just kind of something different?
That is something different. So, sorry, I kind of feel bad making everybody move. So the city has requested an expansion of their extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ. Currently, they have an ETJ which dates from 1971. So this would be the first time they've expanded it. And what you saw was part of what the city needed to do in order to request the expansion from the county's plan commission. Currently, that request is still pending with the county plan commission. The city's working on tweaking some of it to address some of the concerns brought up by the plan commission. Eventually, that will come to, assuming it goes forward, it'll come to you guys as the commissioners. The proposed ETJ expansion does not include any of this area. The nearest it comes is the Union Township line. Most of it is actually west of Raver Road.
Do you know what that's for? Or is it just to make it bigger, or is there a use that is projected for it?
So the ETJ is just jurisdictional. The question was whether this would actually change any of the uses and what it's for. The city wishes to expand the ETJ again because it hasn't been touched since 1971. And so this would just reflect the additional growth the city has seen. So the ETJ is territory that is zoned by the city, but not within the city limits. It would go down to, as initially proposed, and again, they're working on it, it would go down to Kaiser Road and then over. So essentially with the school being annexed last year, the city is up against their current ETJ line at 200 South. So they were requesting to push it farther south, again, to change the zoning from county plan commission to city plan commission. It would still be agricultural. If you're agricultural, it just would be city agricultural, for example. And again, none of that is at all related to the Leeward project.
You said that goes to Kaiser Road?
That would be as proposed, yeah.
Does that include annexation then? Is that what it is?
It is not annexation, no. It is simply saying that the city plan commission, so if you wanted to do a rezoning, instead of going to the county plan commission, you would see the city plan commission. But otherwise, it doesn't change your tax values, doesn't change anything else. Annexation is completely separate.
Anyone else? Commissioner Basinger.
I just want to quickly clarify something. So the internet infrastructure resolution that did not pass, I've heard a lot that the commissioners stopped it and that we shot it down. That's not true. That was the Whitley County Council that did not pass that. And in a nutshell, that would have expanded better internet out to the rural residents, and it was grant dollars and private dollars. So I just wanted to clarify that we did not stop anything with the resolution for better internet. It was the council.
Okay, and with that, I have nothing to add, so I will now adjourn the meeting.